Apex Legends is a game that some of you know about, and you may have that one friend that plays it, but otherwise, it usually will just fall into the back of your mind, forgotten about for the rest of time. It was like that for me for a while, where I would very casually play the game for a day or two, then go back to Siege or Dota because I was way more invested in those two games. However, the Season 9 Legacy update changed everything for me. Since playing it, I have played 761 games as of recording, and the number will only continue to rise. I've played 2 or 3 games of Siege since the season dropped, and I absolutely hate it now. I'll still play Dota now and again, but for maybe 1 or 2 games every 4 days? I genuinely cannot stop playing Apex. Most of my mind is consumed by Apex throughout the day, and most of the content I watch off YouTube now comes from Apex players and news channels. I haven't felt such a huge connection to a game since I played Titanfall 2, my favorite game of all time. And it's no wonder the connection is as strong as it is, since the two games are made by the same developer. And today, I'm going to be showering both games with praise, then subsequently stabbing Siege in the back just because it's not like Apex. I'll also be stabbing most other forms of media, so prepare yourself for that. This is why Apex is the most intelligently crafted competitive game that I've ever played. The movement system in Titanfall and Apex, while wildly different, offers somewhat of the same experience. I know most Titanfall purists out there will fling foul-mouthed abuse at me and try to get me locked away in the Chateau d'If for saying that, but if you give me the time, I can explain my reasoning. The feeling I get playing Titanfall 2, ziplining into someone else, punching them in the back of the head for an instant kill, is a feeling that very few experiences can replicate. Shooting a pin-perfect accurate shot at someone with an EPG is the feeling I imagine I would get if I was one of the rats in the experiment with the dopamine button. Crushing someone else's Titan with your own is the same feeling I get whenever I write an analogy. There is no real gaming experience, or even real-life experience, that can measure up to the joy and love I feel when I play Titanfall 2. The sheer balls-to-the-ceiling movement of the pilot and the player brings a level of mental stimulation that cannot be matched. The game is fun in an entirely different way, standing out amongst the thousands of games that try to do something new and interesting, but then just lie on the floor and die because all of the publishers decided it needed to be finished 2 years before it would be playable. 2 fucking years. Let's think about that for a second, Project Red. How do you feel? Building a base off a game such as Titanfall, you know Respawn are capable of great movement mechanics, really good combat systems, and snorting fun off the back of a cheerleader. And so, enter Apex Legends. Building a movement system from Titanfall into a battle royale is obviously much more difficult than just Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, considering the balance you have to do to make the game fair enough that some dickhead can't come through with a Kraber at Mach 10 and get a headshot without aiming down the sights. They have to ensure that the game is completely fair to any person who drops into it. The movement in Titanfall is fair because the game has quick respawn mechanics, which means that any player can get a fast kill, die, come back, and get into the fray as quickly as possible. In Apex, it can't work, because once a player dies, that's pretty much it unless their team can respawn them. This means that the game will become wildly frustrating if the movement was as fast as Titanfall's, and turn off players. The nature of the game being a battle royale means it has to be slower paced than its predecessor. That isn't to say that the movement system is bad, actually quite the opposite. The movements of legends like Octane and Pathfinder bring back the happiest memories of flying through the air in Titanfall toward an unsuspecting loser as he dies to my EPG shot. The game is built around its movement system, with the maps allowing for insane usage of things like Pathfinder's grapple. Conversely, a game like Infinity War, that also had a quote-unquote fast movement system, was garbage because the maps weren't designed with movement in mind. They were just stapled together with Weet-Bix and semen and left to rot. In a similar way, Rainbow Six Siege has basically no fast movement mechanics, and when they introduced Amaru, the only character with a great and fast repositioning tool, it didn't work because the maps are designed around close quarters combat. Apex is designed to have all-range combat, with players being able to hit shots from a kilometer away. This means there needs to be very fast repositioning from all players, hence fantastic movement mechanics. And that brings us neatly to the gunplay and combat mechanics of Apex. Unlike other battle royales such as Call of Duty, PUBG, or Fortnite, Getting one shot down from a kilometer away is not as infuriating, mainly because you can actually recover from it. In PUBG, you can get one shot down or killed from multiple weapons. In Fortnite, a lucky pickup like the sniper or minigun early in the game means a player can run through people without stopping. In Apex, not really. The only one-shot weapon in the game is a Kraber, and there's absolutely no way to get one until at least the midpoint in a match. And even then, the Kraber only gets 12 shots in total. Even after that, the one shot down can only happen on a headshot. This means, hypothetically speaking, that a player can only down 12 people if they hit a headshot each time they fire. Realistically, a good player will most likely only hit about 8 shots, and only 4 of them will be headshots. Admittedly, you can still get one-shot downs from Sentinel headshots, but that's only if the enemy has a lower than level 2 helmet and the base body shield. In other words, not gonna happen. Really bloody unlikely. The amount of work that a player has to put in to get a kill makes the game so much more engaging than any other game I have ever played. You have to absolutely commit if you want to get a squad kill. Sure, you can get a kill by sitting in a bush with a sniper and hitting someone who is in a fight already, effectively stealing that kill, but if you're playing exclusively that way, you aren't playing Apex. You're playing dickhead in a bush simulator. A real fight requires lightning-fast reflexes and thinking, and the use of so many different variables. Say, for instance, you get into a fight with a Caustic, Lifeline, and Bangalore. You know immediately they can smoke you off if you push them. They are going to have the side advantage. You also know that when you down one of the enemies, you're going to have to finish them off immediately, or that Lifeline is going to get them back in the fight real quick. Finally, you know that the Caustic is able to lock you out of buildings with his traps, and even locate you if you set off one of his traps. Your brain will begin to shift, seemingly shutting off but forcing you to make decisions without you even being conscious of it. It almost becomes a complete instinct, and that's an amazing thing. If you've ever played a game of Siege or Counter-Strike where you spend a couple of seconds gearing up for the round, getting ready to fight, and then dying immediately, you've had the same experience I have, and you know why I despise these games. The lack of one-shot headshots means that you have so much more time to react and turn a gunfight around in Apex. And when you do, you know it's because you're a smart fella and ain't no fart smeller. Unless, of course, you're a Wraith main, in which case, you still won, but you are in fact a fart smeller. Back on point, the reason I can no longer play Siege even after 500 hours of playing it is because of one-shot headshots. There is no way to come back from it. There is no way to counter it. It's just, hey son. Hey dad. Looks like I found your hiding spot, son. Huh. Guess you have, dad. You hear a cough of cordite, and you're no longer playing the game. Looks like XXX, my parents are divorced, XXX got to you before you could do anything. That's not fun. It's just infuriating. Fun is overcoming an obstacle by using your big strong gamer brain, fueled by G Fuel, to overcome the great challenge that another player puts in front of you. Fun is hitting someone in the bean with an arc star and watching them run around as they try to find cover before you can go over and rest your balls on them. Seeing someone's face for half a second and then dying is not fun, it's just bullshit. Apex hits the balance of TTK perfectly, where a fight isn't so short that it isn't fun anymore, but not so long that you'll get bored. Every fight in some way shifts your brain into a higher gear, and you begin to think in ways you never thought you could. Now, I want to talk about the characters, since I've spent such a long time on the combat, and I should probably move on. One massive advantage I find that Apex has over its competitors is that each character feels like a character. When I play Valkyrie, I don't think, oh, well, this character only exists in this exact space and nowhere else. It's, after this fight, she's probably going to go do some smuggling jobs, because she's actually a character that feels as though she can exist outside the context of the match. Bloodhound, Octane, and Pathfinder all feel as though they're going to go back to their lives and do what they were doing before they got into the match, namely hunting, performing stunts, and finding their creator, respectively. It's the same for every legend, and I feel the reason I have these thoughts is because of the delivery of their lines. Each line that a legend has is recorded 2 or 3 times with a different inflection in each, making sure the lines are never stale. If you heard the same person saying the exact same thing in the same way 300 times, you would think they had been replaced by a Zerg. However, hearing them say the same thing 300 times, but in 3 different ways, and over a long period, tricks your brain into believing they are still human. Inflection is something that can absolutely shift the way someone thinks of someone else, and it's no different during gameplay. Another thing that endears these characters to me is that none of them have been designed to be like godlike creatures of humanity that have been coked up to their eyelids in the ashes of terrorists, like in Call of Duty. But none of them are background fluff either. Just like the terrorists that chances are good you shot and didn't even think about as you were ending the thinking, feeling human being that lived behind that mask. Again, I'm making a comparison between these two games to illustrate a point. In Call of Duty, each open quotes good character is one that seems to have been birthed from the steel vagina of a tuned-up tank that was inseminated by a supercarrier. Each one of them is treated as a super soldier, as they wave their guns around, ending the lives of people who had aspirations, who were probably answering the same Call of Duty that you were, fuckface. And the developers make you do it without a single thought, because they don't matter as long as you're protecting your right to use drone strikes to illegally destroy a country's holy ground. In Apex, none of the legends are really super soldiers, with the mild exception of Wraith, who isn't even a soldier. Each one of them is in the games for a reason. Mirage is a low IQ man who doesn't understand much but has a very firm grasp on holographic technology. Bangalore is a former soldier who can prove herself in combat, and Valkyrie is in the games to uphold the legacy of her father and create her own. The dialogue and interactions between each character further emphasizes that these people have relationships and lives outside of the games, and they don't exist solely in this one space. If you can show me a Call of Duty character that you think can exist outside of their context, outside of the fighting and war and killing men and women who would rather not be killed, thank you very much, I'll show you a steaming load of dog shit. Hell, even when I die to another legend in this game and I hear their quip, I can still get a sense of what type of person the writers are trying to make them out to be, and that's more than I can say I ever felt for Johnny Terrorist number 8920 in a Call of Duty game. To sum up, to create an engaging experience, create great and engaging characters, ones that feel as though they could be real people, and you're already halfway to the finishing line. One of the best examples I would use in this case is Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. He has absolutely no dialogue except a few grunting and bellowing noises, but it's his movements and interactions with other characters that make him so engaging and very real. He's a fucking cartoon character who doesn't speak and isn't even based on a real creature, and he feels more real to me than actual people I've met. The scene I'm showing you on screen shows a surprisingly emotional connection between a dragon and a normal kid as they exist side by side, not trusting each other but still being curious enough to explore each other's worlds. Toothless is drawing with a tree branch because he sees Hiccup do it, and that makes him so real to me. He has so many human qualities that lift him above the "it's just a cartoon character" saying, and that's what you want to try and create in any story, just as Apex has done. You need to make them feel real. Just as a side note, at some point in the future, I will be reviewing How to Train Your Dragon because it's my favorite movie of all time, and I would just like to put it out there at some point. Now, I want to talk about the reason I decided to make this video in the first place. The ranking system in this game is the absolute best I have ever seen. This system is centered around individual merit rather than team merit. To explain what I mean, let me give you some examples. In Dota, Siege, CSGO, Call of Duty, and pretty much all games with competitive ranking systems, the ranking of a player is determined by if their team wins a game or not. While this is an okay way to measure skill overall, it can absolutely demolish a good player's experience. If a great player in Siege gets matched with absolute losers who can barely summon the effort to speak because of all the blows to their head they've suffered, the chances are that good player will carry them. If they even make a single mistake, that could mean the game, and there goes all of his/her skill down the drain, and a loss in rank. The player could go 15 for 1, and they'd get nothing from the experience. Conversely, a good player in Apex can still get rank points even if their team is composed of mouth breathers. This is because of the RP per kill system. Of course, winning a match is always favorable, but even if you don't, you can still make RP just by proving your individual merit. This makes the ranking system so much better than those in other games because you are actually measuring the skill of one player rather than the skill of 5 players combined. Measuring a player's level of skill in this way is the best way to do it because you are genuinely keeping them at the rank they deserve to be in. If someone who should be in platinum rank in Siege gets matched with copper players, he's going to D rank. If he plays Apex and is a bronze type of player, but gets matched with players who should be in plat or above, he does disadvantage them, but not to the point that they will 100% lose rank points by playing with him, because they can still prove their individual merit. This is a system that I feel needs to be adopted in almost every competitive environment. The frustration I feel in Siege when I play in Gold, only to derank to Copper in 5 games because I got some really, really ass players on my team, or we got smurfed on, is genuinely immeasurable. If there was a system where a player could still gain rank points or negate losing rank points entirely based on how they do, it would curb so much of that frustration. Another great feature of the ranking system in Apex is that you are literally unable to fall below your current rank standing, i.e., if you make it to Platinum, you will stay in Plat, no matter how many games you lose and how much RP you lose. The only way you lose this rank is when the season ends, or when the ranked reset hits. It's amazing to me that this ranking system was developed by such a small team, where Siege has hundreds of people working on it, and they haven't fixed a sound bug from 3 years ago. It's also amazing to me that this game is balanced at all, because even though some legends flat out do not work in the meta, they can still be picked and be amazing at what they do. That is not the case in so many other games. For instance, in Dota, if you play ranked, you will almost never see someone pick a hero like Techies or Chen or Batrider. That is because these heroes have some of the lowest win rates and are basically unplayable in the current meta. Sure, you might see 1 or 2 in a game and they might do okay, but they won't really do anything beyond that. In Siege, seeing an Amaru pick in ranked is every player's worst nightmare, because they just know for a fact that they are so much more likely to lose because of that pick. In Apex, I have never once felt disadvantaged by someone on my team picking a legend that, quote, isn't meta. I've been on teams with Ramparts, Mirages, Watsons, and Revenants, and I have never once felt worse off in any way by their presence. This is also somewhat because while a legend's abilities are an integral part of the game, and they can win and lose fights, they aren't as important as the mechanical skill of the player. Ultimately, my opinion may not matter as much as someone like Shroud or Ace or the Gaming Merchant, but I don't really care. This game is important to me and represents what I want from modern-day first-person shooters, and so I wanted to share my feelings about it. The only bad shit in this game, the only real complaints I feel 100% justify in leveling against the game is its hacking issues and the lack of South African servers. That's it. It's not even really Respawn's fault. They are trying to fix the rampant hacking, but that shit is difficult. Anything I find bad with this game lies as basically nothing amongst the amazing things I find in this game. Every part of this game feels so expertly crafted and well made, and that it was designed with an intent, with a goal. It wasn't designed by committee. It was designed by people who cared about the project and what they were making, and it really shows. The effort on display is insane. Playing any Call of Duty game, this game comes out on top every single time. If anyone who works at Respawn happens to see this video, if anyone who knows anyone at Respawn happens to see this video, I wanted to say thank you, and you've created one of the best experiences of my life, both in Titanfall 2 and in Apex Legends. These are the games that have gotten me into my degree that I'm currently doing, and I could think of no better games to inspire someone to get into game design. These games are amazing. Thank you for creating them. Thank you for letting me have them.